The company which makes planes, Airbus, is planning to trim an inch or two off its window seats to make room for wider ones in the aisles. So it's fair for those with a few extra pounds, larger frame, to pay more, and those without the inches around their middle or their shoulders lose inches off their seat. Is that fair? Chris Yates is an aviation analyst, can tell us more. Are they just trying to get more money out of us, Chris?
I think probably they are trying to get much more money out of us. What we're talking about is a seat reduction, but also the width of the outside seat, the aisle seat on the A320 airliner, which is expanded to accommodate those of us who perhaps are a little larger nowadays. And it's very good news for those people who do struggle with airline seats, but for many of us who require the ordinary seats, the fact that they're narrowing is going to be a big problem in my estimation at least.
So the airlines are saying it's about weight. Weight is the key, isn't it, to making money, it seems, in the aviation industry?
The weight is the key, and, you know, it's only, 3-4 weeks ago now that Samoa Airlines became the first carrier in the world to actually charge passengers based on their weight as opposed to the seat that they're occupying. Now, that's perhaps a dangerous trend, and one could see many other, particularly low-cost carriers around the world following that model and perhaps charging out at a larger rate, dependent upon either the size of the person or the size of the seats that they're occupying.
So people who have a bigger seat will pay more. Presumably those who are put into the narrower seats will not pay less. Mm-hmm. It doesn't seem particularly fair, and most people who've sat on a plane for any length of time will say that actually, unless you're fortunate enough to sit up the front, it's a pretty uncomfortable experience anyway. We don't want smaller seats. No,
we certainly don't want smaller seats, and I think perhaps this is, in my opinion at least, taking things a step too far. At the end of the day, yes, we have to be mindful of the demographic. We have to be mindful that people over recent years have started to people are somewhat larger.
Yeah. And maybe that's why, I mean, Samoa, the South Seas Islands,
absolutely. But you could see that model being rolled out into the United States, certainly here in Europe, and so on. And yes, it is. It's all about generating extra income for the airlines.
Some US airlines already charge people, don't they? If they're too big to fit in a seat, they make them buy two. That's fair.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And it follows that it is fair enough to charge people perhaps a little bit extra for the wider seats on board aeroplanes. But the question is whether this is going to rebound back on airlines that do follow on with the Airbus suggestion of refitting their airline cabins with narrower seats and larger.
I mean, I'm just thinking of that moment in the airport where you've got your seat and you're told, no, actually, I'm sorry, you know, you're too large or your shoulders are too big, or to sit in that seat. I mean, it's going to be an uncomfortable position, isn't it? Do you think the public are going to rebel against that?
Well, certainly, if you look at all of the comment that there's been online over the past, 12 months now since this idea was first mooted, there is a significant backlash, particularly amongst British passengers, about the prospect of losing some width on the seats that they might well be occupying by the window.